This is the sixth in a short series of presentations to assist paraglider and hang glider pilots who are studying for their BHPA pilot rating exams. This series is on Airlaw. This section covers altitude and altimeter settings. It can be hard to visually assess your height from the air. The first altimeters made use of the fact that air pressure falls as we ascend from the Earth's surface. From our Met knowledge, we know that the fall in pressure happens at roughly the rate of 1 millibar, or 1 hectopascal, for every 10 meters or 30 feet that we rise from the Earth's surface. The trouble is that the air pressure at the surface can change. It can change at sea level according to the local air mass. When pilots were trying to communicate about height in circumstances of poor visibility, they were also using poor quality radio. So the questions about height were all about the air pressure at various points. At the time, air pressure could be measured fairly simply and accurately with bellows-type barometers. But they also needed to transmit their questions using Morse code, hence the three-letter simple queries that were established. This was how the rather notorious Q codes came about, Q meaning query or question. This section of study always seems rather superfluous now that we can all carry a GPS integrated instrument. Nonetheless, it still features in the pilot exam, and there is some quite tricky math to do on occasion. In terms of what the Q codes stand for, it is important to remember that only two of the Q codes are pressure measurements. They are QNH, which is a measurement of pressure at mean sea level. It is used to ensure that an aircraft's altimeter displays its actual altitude above mean sea level. And there is QFE, or query, the field elevation. In other words, what is the air pressure at the airfield? The final Q code of our set is QNE, and this is the only one which is actually a height in feet. This value is the height above sea level if we were to assume that the sea level pressure were at the universal standard pressure setting of 1013.2 millibars or hectopascals. It is QNE that is used to define flight levels. Since the sea level pressure is not always 1013.2, then the GPS or actual elevation of a flight level changes according to the prevailing air pressure. This graphic attempts to express the three Q codes in a more practical way. We can see that the altitude of 4,000 feet on the left, when pressure close to the aircraft is 1032, is actually 3,500 feet above the point where the pressure reads 1013.2, or the universal standard. And because the airfield on the hill has a field elevation pressure, QFE, of just 976 millibars or hectopascals, then the aircraft knows it is 2,500 feet above the airfield. You probably need to spend a little time thinking about airways and what happens when we have a period of high pressure in the UK versus when you might be flying in a low pressure, perhaps post-frontal day. These graphics, taken from the RASP weather forecasting system, show how pressure can be as high as 1025 or more on some days, or as low as 1015 or so on other days. The difference of 10 millibars or more can change the height of the airspace corridors by 300 or 400 feet, and that can be quite relevant if you're trying to sneak along underneath them. So that concludes this brief section on altimeter settings.